This week, I explain how I review my projects now that I don't use projects in Todoist. Hello and welcome to another episode of my Working with Todoist series. My name is Pullein and this week it's all about reviewing projects, and I'm going to show you how I review my projects in Todoist now that I don't actually have any projects in Todoist. But also on top of that, I'm actually going to show you how I use my purpose and objectives folder, because I've had a lot of questions about that over the last couple of weeks. Although I have done a video on this before, I am going to show you exactly how I use this today. I'm also going to explain how I use my filters so that I get my today's objectives and today's focus filters coming in. And finally, I'm going to show you how I use my routines folder. So this week, this video is packed full of lots of useful tips and tricks that you may want to adopt yourself in Todoist. And if you do get any value from this video, then I would be so appreciative if you would just hit that little like button below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you do want to get all the latest tips, tricks and news on using Todoist, then please hit that subscribe button. Okay, it's now time for me to take you in to my Todoist to show you all these wonderful things that you can do inside this amazing application. Right, let's start with my purpose and objectives, because this is where I would spend most of my time on a Sunday when I do my weekly planning session. This is where I am going to start, which is my purpose and objectives. And a lot of people have actually asked about this since I revealed this organization structure, and I have done a video on this before, so if you've seen this you can actually skip this part. But essentially what this is a place that I can go to that will keep me focused on what I have identified are my most important things for next week, or this week as I'm currently working. So what I've done here is, this is basically a project. All it is a simple project folder, but I'm not using this as a task, if you like. So what I've got here is I've got wake up with energy, have a purpose for the day and stay focused on achieving it. This is my mantra, if you like, for 2020. So I want to wake up with energy, and I have a few morning routines that which I follow to help me build that energy. I make sure that I have a purpose, which comes from my today's objectives, which are right here, and to stay focused on achieving those objectives. So when I'm doing my weekly planning session, what I've done is I've got this week's focus. What am I going to focus on this week? And I usually only limit this to just two things. And for me this week, this is just my demonstration account, but for me this week is to prepare for a visit to Crab Key next week, and prepare or to focus on next week's product launch, which could be a very, very important project. Then I break it down into this week. What are going to be my three things, if you like, my most important tasks for this week? So if you like, the difference here is this is my focus. This is where I'm going to keep my thoughts and my thinking, because I strongly believe in that where my focus is, my energy flows. And so this is where I want to do. This helps me to really focus in so that I'm fully energized on these particular items for next week. And then here are the three things that I really want to do. If you like, my most important tasks of the week, my MITs for the week. So I really want to make sure that I exercise 6 times this week. I want to complete the presentation file for next week's product launch, and I want to continue with my digital minimalism project. And that's just essentially reviewing the apps that I'm using to make sure that I am actually using them. And then I also keep in here this month. These are my 3 things for this month. So in this particular example, to make sure we have an outstanding product launch on the 25th, to run 10 kilometers in under 55 minutes, and to send $1,000 to my savings account. So this could be anything. This could be a mixture of personal or professional. It doesn't really matter. These are things that you've identified are the things that you want to really hit this month. So that's my purpose and objectives, and I do generally review this pretty much every single day. I'll just zoom in for you there. just to keep me focused in, particularly in the morning. I like to go in here just to remind myself, and particularly in this area here, I'm making sure that I'm hitting those objectives. Of course, with my new organization structure, and this is another question I've had, with my new organization structure, what's happened to my objectives and my focus? Well, the answer to that is nothing, because my objectives have always been, my today's objective, always been based on flags and dates. So these are due today. They're in my folder for this week, and they are flagged P1. So anything that's flagged P1 is due today. There's only 2 I will allow myself. Those are my objectives for the day. And my focus tasks are, I do actually include the 2 there because this is the area that I spend most of the day. This is the window that I have each day. Now, just for those people who say, but aren't you duplicating? Yes, I'm duplicating, but this one here is right. First thing in the morning, I look at that and I just see the 2 things. It's more of a visual thing. I can look at that and think these are the only 2 tasks I need to perform today to have a really successful day. I then switch into my today's focus view, which is here, which does include those objectives plus the other tasks, which I would have a maximum of 8 others. So I would never allow this to be more than 10 tasks per day. And for those people who say, well, maybe I can have 12, maybe I can have 15, well, go ahead, you can try that, but you're going to start finding yourself rescheduling tasks. What I did was, for about a year, I monitored this. I know I can get 10 tasks comfortably done each day, and that drives me forward on the things I've identified as being important. So I will not allow myself to go beyond 10. If I go beyond 10, often I find I don't have enough time to complete all these tasks, particularly when you take into consideration the natural distractions and interruptions you are going to get on a daily basis. So that's essentially how I am doing that. Also coming in here is my routines. These are feeding in every single day. These are the things that don't move my life further forward. I don't want to be worrying about them. I don't want to be thinking about them. I only need to see them when they need to be done. So things like take the garbage out, give my dog his bath, complete my monthly expenses, do my invoices, and wash the car. These things are not going to take my life forward. I just need to know when they're due, so I don't have to try and remember that sort of thing. It'll just come up in my daily view when they need to do. And you can probably see here in the today's view, I've got my morning routines here, which come up as, if you remember from last week, these come into my the section here, which I call recurring areas of focus. These are the things that recur every single week that are really important to me, like my morning routine, doing my focus 10, preparing my YouTube videos, and preparing the class materials for my language students. For example, these are the things that do drive me forward, and these are recurring. So I don't need to be adding these to the weekly project. They're just there. They will come up when they are due. Now, finally, before we finish this video, one thing that keeps cropping up, people say, I couldn't do this because I have to review my projects. Now, I want to give you a really good example of why I found that my to-do list manager is not a good place to review projects. Now, the first thing is, what I do is I've got a project here called Project X, and that's in this week's folder. So, okay, I don't have a Project X folder in Todoist, but what I do have is a Project X here, a project that I have right here in there. Now, when I'm doing a review and I think, okay, what's happening with Project X, I can double tap on that and I can I can go in live to the actual documents that I'm working on to see where I am. It doesn't tell a lie. This is the real situation. This is live. What I've found in the past is when I've done this and I've think, oh yeah, everything's okay, I might have accidentally checked off a task. I might not have checked off a task and have this false belief that I need to do some work that actually I've already done. So this, for me, is a much better place to review the actual project folder. So I've got a couple ones here. I've got like product launch XYZ. I have the ABC product launch presentation file in here. I can now open that file, and with Apple you can just hit the space bar, it will open up the file. I can quickly see the presentation like that. I don't actually have to open the file, but that would give me the real picture of why of exactly where I am with a particular project. Now, there is another reason why I did this, and this cropped up in December last year. I had a project for a trip to the UK from Ireland. I was based in Ireland at the time, and we were flying off to the UK, and I just needed to book the flights. That was one of the remaining things. The hotel had been booked, and I just needed to book the flights. I booked the flights online, checked off the task, and thought, okay, my flights are booked. About 2 days before I was due to fly, I went into my email folder where I had the project folder in my email, which had UK trip as a folder in my email. As I was reviewing the documents in there, I realized there's no flight confirmation. I then contacted the flight airline to say, could you send me a copy? And they said, oh, we don't have a record of your flight. Fortunately, I did have a copy of my credit card receipt for paying for the flight. I was able to send that. But the thing is, my to-do list manager had told me I'd done that task because I had done that task. The problem I had was I hadn't received the confirmation, and it didn't register at the time that I hadn't received the confirmation. I just assumed, okay, I've checked the task off, it's done. But actually the task had a problem and it needed fixing. And fortunately, I was reviewing the details just a couple of days before, discovered the problem, was able to fix it. So this is another reason why I am not as comfortable as maybe you guys are about reviewing my project status from my to-do list manager. Some things get checked off, some things might not get checked off, and now they give you a false picture of where that project is. The reality is these folders here for me tell me exactly where I am with a project. And my email folder, if it's related to a trip or travel, because I'm receiving hotel confirmations, flight confirmations, and that sort of thing, they stay in my email, and I create a temporary project folder in my email for that trip. Therefore, I have all the confirmation slips in there that I can check I have got everything I need. So there you go. That's how I manage my projects. That's how I review my projects. I don't review them inside my Todoist because often I found that gave me a false picture of where I am. What I do is I create the documents and I will look at them live when I need to review a project. But for the most part, I'm pretty comfortable with where my projects are. So there you go. I think that has pretty much covered all the questions I've now been asked about this setup. As I've said before, this might not necessarily work for you, and I can identify somebody in a sales or business development area where there's a lot of follow-ups and prospect chasing. Maybe you probably wouldn't necessarily work in that situation, or maybe you'd need to add labels in order for that to work. But this works beautifully for me. It's speeded up my whole system. I don't spend that much time now in Todoist. I spend a lot more time doing the work that matters. And I have really found that this system is just so much better than what I was doing in terms of organizing before. But just I want to stress, I haven't actually changed the overall system. I'm still following C.O.D. I still have my golden 10 at the end of the day, my 2+8 prioritization system. Those are foundations to my productivity system. But this, followed with these things, it really has helped me to stay focused on what I've identified is important, and I have not missed a single thing since I did this. Okay, thank you very much for watching this, another rather long episode. It just remains for me now to wish you all a very, very productive week. Thank you very much for watching this video. Now I have a question for you. Are you ready to go beyond the to-do list? Now, the reason I ask that question is because your to-do list is never going to do the work for you. Your to-do list is only ever going to show you what needs to be done. And that often can cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, and a lot of overwhelm. What really helps you to get your work done, and what really helps you to become much more productive, is developing your own workflow. A workflow that you work from every single day that makes sure that you stay focused on the things that you have identified are the most important things to you. Now that could be your work, it could be your goals, it could be your family, it could be your personal life, it could be your self-development. Whatever that is entirely personal to you. But the key is to develop the workflow so that you are consistently making small steps towards achieving the things that you want to achieve every single day. And that's why I have developed my Productivity Mastermind course, creating your very own custom workflow. And I would love for you to check out the course. The course is available now, details of which are in the notes below, and I would just love to see you in this course. So please join me in the Productivity Mastermind course, developing your very own custom workflow, because this is a course that's going to take you way beyond the to-do list so that you start to really move forward on the goals and the things that you have identified are important to you. Thank you very much.